Hello, everyone. This is another connection contact with the wonderful Roger Aldridge. There's so
My
much to
dog Figgy.
share. And your dog, Figgy, yeah, she's very excited for us to be meeting again. We're actually recording this on a few days after the last video, and I'll probably share it at the weekend. So whenever you see this video uploaded, is a continuation of the video that happened a few days ago because it felt really important. I can't place the date, but let's say a week ago.
We made it on the 5th.
The 5th. Okay.
Yeah.
So today is the 10th, so 5 days ago, but it felt so active, the information, and so new and so perfectly aligned to what the astrology and the Mayan calendar and what was the one, the Chinese one?
The Lunar Spring Festival or Lunar New Year.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, Roger. I'm so excited to share with you this time and to hear more of your wisdom. I am super grateful that you are able to be so present and receive this information. And thank you so much. It takes courage to be fully ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I would like to say real quick is that several years ago, a very powerful message came to me during one of the medical qigong sessions I was having with Michael Perfetto, and it was just very simple. Um, a message about working in pairs. And, of course, I have this collaboration with Michael Perfetto. We have this collaboration too in the videos that we're making and the stuff that we're sharing with people on Facebook and so on. So I'm delighted and honored to have this work with you.
Mm. Yes, likewise, likewise. So, as we were saying, there are so many new advancements, and really they feel so new that it's almost like you want to repeat what you just heard because it's like, really, this is a thing, and as we go through life, there are situations and experiences that we don't know how we know, but we know how it feels, and we know that there is a deep resonance within our being, and this is
Mhm.
certainly one of them. So, if I may ask you to speak a little bit more on what you brought about complementary polarity,
Mhm.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, as I mentioned before we started recording, this is a phrase that came to me last year during a dream. And as I was also mentioning, I have many blog entries that are about Star Nations teams that I was a part of, that I had a role with in various places on the planet in ancient times. And there's three of them, actually four, that I'm getting the most information about. One of them I'll kind of set aside because it's project teams that were involved with Mars. Um, but the remaining three were on Earth in several parts of the world. The first one, going chronologically, that I'm aware of, was with a team that went to the Gobi, and we worked with an ancient people that lived in that area, and that was before that area became desert. In north central China, and then the next project team went to Mesoamerica, and I'm not sure of the time frames of these, but it's my sense that we focused in the Yucatan area, but I think we also had connections that went with people beyond that, maybe even to Teotihuacan. And with these teams, each person had a particular expertise. And so then as a group, we brought different things, to help people. Some might have been practical life skills. Others were, much deeper things like what I'd call consciousness technology. And it certainly seems to me that how I've been drawn to particular Mayan practices, like, following the chol each day and the long count, that goes back to my experiences with the Star Nations team. In fact, there's also a sense that some of the things that we were bringing from the Pleiades, because that particular Star Nations team came, as I best recall, from the Alcyon star system in the Pleiades. And ever since I first started working with the Chokin, I just felt that it had its roots in the stars, or its origins in the stars. And as I discovered more about my Palladian connections, it went hand in hand with what I was experiencing energetically with the Chokin. Then the third team went to Crete. And I don't know as much about that as with the Gobi and with the Mesoamerican teams. The best that I'm able to sense at this point is that we focused on very powerful, very deep energy work for the planet. But that's the main thing that I recall. I have had visions of that team, and it consisted of both men and women doing this energy work. So this is like a little bit of the background about these Star Nations teams. I do have a collection of blog entries about them. For those that can go to my website, it's rogeraldridge.com, and then look for Out and About, and that has all of my blogs. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll see a collections heading, and it has 9 topics that I've had a leading to create, and I go through all my blogs and select entries that would have to do with that particular topic. So one of the collections is Star Nations teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that has a lot of information about these teams. It has information about how I use the Chokin as an energetic practice each day. And there's references to this team that went to the Gobi. But going back to back to your question about complementary polarity, this was one of the dreams, and I saw myself with that Gobi team, and I was shown documents that had to do with our work, with those people, and in that time frame. And I don't remember much at all about the documents, but what I remembered is that when I was just kind of in this halfway state of starting to come out of the dream, I very distinctly heard complementary polarity. And I found that really curious, because I don't remember hearing that phrase before, used in any way. However, when I looked it up and then saw that it had to do with uh, uh, people working together for the common good, um, uh, like musicians complementing each each one with their particular styles and what they have to offer. And of course, I spent many years uh, working in IT, and much of our work would be with project teams. And as I described in our blog last week, a project team would have people with different skills, different expertise, and each person would have things to offer to the collective work of the team. And so working in that spirit of somehow hashing out differences, um, somehow reaching a reasonable consensus of how to do this work collectively. I understood that very well. So then I was really able to appreciate the idea of complementary polarity.
Thank you. So, would it be correct to say that it's a frequency it's a frequency band, and then the differences within the the key people that bring different and a very important um, creation, innovation, ideas, decrees for evolution, as you say, for the common good.
Mm-hmm. The people would have to be at a similar level of being able to work together and have the necessary skills to be able to, again, function within a team and be able to do the kind of technical level of work that would be called for. Like a person maybe brand new as a coder, that wouldn't fit. Like for a very advanced, complex project necessarily.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for the description of,
Mhm.
working in a team in terms of a business or a project.
Yeah.
But do you feel that we come with set of skills and obviously purpose, and there is a deep desire to fulfill, to express, and certainly to be present to some kind of I call it mission. It could
Hmm.
be,
Yeah.
a deep sense of responsibility to bring something forward to the world, whether it is writing or music or some technology that gets um, literally downloaded.
Hmm.
So would you say that in this case it's really knowing with this, would you, I mean, this is how I'm understanding it, that when we know ourselves, and by that I mean you truly allow all of it to be in the moment and be so connected with the true essence of your soul, which isn't just this particular timeline, this particular incarnation, but we have come in this particular point in time and we're all here together. So the ones that have this true inner knowing and this desire to now meet the others, because I feel, and for quite a few years, I have said, find the others.
Yes. I was going to mention that.
Yeah. So then, so then it's different, right? It's not like somebody had to go through a university to learn some things. It's the innate soul potential that then gets expressed, and the bandwidth or the
Mhm.
frequency of each individual matches the resonance of the group. I'm not a musician, but I studied a bit because I used to do sound healing.
Mhm.
So I studied sound, not music, but it reminds me of the cycle of fifths and
Mhm.
how, if you have two notes together, they're really dissonant. But if you have a space so that there is some kind of movement in that
Mhm.
flow, then it's so much more beautiful and more, I guess, also emotional, the potential for emotional uh, release or feelings.
Mhm.
So it reminds me that, as you were saying, that they have to be with their own set of skills, but they're not supposed to be all the same, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I often use the analogy of instruments in an orchestra, and there's many different instruments. You have the various stringed instruments, like violin, viola, cello, bass, many kinds of woodwinds, flutes, clarinets, oboe, English horn, bassoon, many kind of woodwinds, and then of course the brass, trumpet, trombones, French horns, trombones, tuba, and then percussion. You can have tons of different kinds of percussion, drums, mallet instruments, and the list just goes on and on and on. So each instrument has its own particular tone color. And, one of the things that I really love about orchestration is coming up with, different and sometimes unconventional ways of combining instruments. And some of my favorite composers were absolute masters of orchestration. Like I think of Duke Ellington, Gil Evans, and so many classical composers. In one of our videos, um, I mentioned Claude Debussy as
Mm.
someone who I like very much, and so he did amazing things with orchestration, and certainly Ravel. But yeah, I think an orchestra is a perfect example of the idea of complementary polarity, of how we're not looking for this group of people to all be the same. No, that wouldn't work. That's not what we mean by a project team, or even the word polarity. Like we need differences. We need each person to bring something to the table. As the expression goes, and then it's very much like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So the complementary is the frequency, and then the polarity is how it's a bit like some kind of geometry that activates each other and creates something new.
Yeah, yeah. Each person can play against the other. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way, but somehow,
The force is a
yeah,
force.
like maybe nudging a person to bring something out of themselves that were, just waiting to come out. I think of so many wonderful collaborations in music.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah, and like with those wonderful collaborations, uh, one can only wonder if they would have been able to be able to create it at such a high, incredible artistic level if they weren't in that collaboration. Like in many cases, yes, they certainly, I think of Miles Davis, and I mean, he could play, just by himself and be incredible. But then the various collaborations that he had, that he helped inspire other people, and other people inspired him, like Miles Davis and Gil Evans. I mean, they reached incredible creative heights, and the various ensembles that Miles had. Just wonderful collaborations, and collective improvisation. I'm sorry, trying to say collective inspiration. That's what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And would it be also that the polarity not only, it's as you said, pushing each other, creating a force, but also activates each other, and so there is always an evolution even in that particular group. But I'm very interested in what you were saying, that the groups landed together, so there wasn't just one,
Right.
right? There was a group of, let's say, individuals, whether they were humans or semi-humans, and they bring some kind of intelligence to us, and they share that with the people.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes pretty much what we've been digging deep into, and what
Yeah.
we thought we sought those wisdoms for our own evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the Star Nations teams, they were certainly formed well before they came here. And it's likely that these were star beings that had worked together on other projects. Like when I think about my team of guides, I feel, timeless connections with them. And
Mhm.
um, when I first, when Michael and I first began to have visions of this one star being from Alnilam that was, helping us in our medical qigong sessions, there was a sense that we've worked together on any number of Star Nations projects. And so now we're working together again for the Earth Project. Um, I'm in this physical incarnation, and he's not. But it doesn't matter.
So it's also a collaboration with star allies and star nations.
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that. I love that.
Yeah. And this is what the on a large scale, this is what the Star Nations are currently doing for Earth. There's so many ways that humanity is being helped. Um, and much of this work of the Star Nations is behind the scenes. Much of humanity, well, I could say most of humanity is probably unaware of how much help they've been getting with the Star Nations, how the Star Nations have helped humanity more than once from blowing themselves up. The Star Nations are very devoted for humanity to survive and for the earth to survive. But there's also the aspect of free will. So it's a bit of a delicate balance of when the Star Nations might need to step in with something and not to interfere with, humanity's evolution, as well as free will.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for breaking the part of the free will. My sense is that we are, and I want to use the word still, we are still in a free will universe, but I feel that the more that we know ourselves, there's no need for free will, because there won't be, oh, let's try this and let's see how I succeed or otherwise, because you already know the path, and you're in the flow of the soul, and the free will won't be the guiding, but the soul itself, the purpose, or the this, as I said, this desire to, actually they were your words, the desire to work together for the common good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, like what you're describing very well is the situation that we have within physical Earth life. where we have this density, where we have, divisive polarity going on and, conflict, wars, and so on. But when we're out of the physical and, back in the higher planes, none of that's happening. It's like realms of love,
Mm.
not the ego that, you know, um, in some cases has to dominate or belittle other people to feel strength in themselves. That doesn't exist in the higher planes. So there is just from everything I'm able to understand, we're really we automatically act in the spirit of the common good because we're seeing ourselves as integral parts of a vast collective. And again, we're not having to struggle or belittle other people. That's just not a part of those higher realms.
Love that.
Hmm.
Love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's seeing, I call that true compassion of seeing, the level of being and the level of evolution in each person, and then to the best of our abilities, still living in this density to honor that, and then to desire for them or to wish for them that they find a way to rise or to evolve or to spin faster from that point, right? But
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. I think what we're talking about now is a good segue into this book that I had shown you. Let me see if I can, can you see it all right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. This is the second book by Rosie McKnight. Her formal name was Rosalind, but, all of her friends called her Rosie. And so this particular one, Soul Journeys, it says My Guided Tours Through the Afterlife. And so she's with one of her primary guides, whom Rosie called Radiant Lady. And I highly recommend this book because it's just absolutely wonderful, and you can get a very good sense of what it's like to leave the physical and go back to where we came from, prior to coming down here for this life. But there's one passage, and this doesn't specifically use the words complementary polarity, but it really gets us in the ballpark. There's just a couple passages. I'll just pull out a couple sentences here. Um, so these words are from one of one of Rosie's guides, who's a very advanced star being. Um, when he showed up in Rosie's sessions with others forming the team of guides during her hemisync sessions with Bob Monroe, um, Bob and this guide also conversed, and Bob had questions for him, and his answers. Bob had written that the answers were just so striking to him. That Bob would say, "Ah, so," and then go into another question. So Bob began to call him "Ah, so." So these are some words from or some teachings from from this being. says everything that has a beginning always, oh, I'm sorry, the energies on the earth plane are linear. Everything that has a beginning always has an ending. Thus, the linear earth plane has a dual nature. It has two sides. Says, after saying that, however, I want to say that the dual nature of the earth is only a perception. It is not dual in nature. And let's see. So I think this is Rosie, that asked him, so it is different in your realm. And then he says, yes, we view our dimension as a circumference, meaning it has a boundary. We do not have the constant beginnings and endings that are the basic makeup of the earth dimension. But then here, this is the part that I really wanted to share. There is only one reality. Reality is circular, with no beginning and no end. In the earth plane, you experience life as being linear because your boundaries go from one side of the circle to the other. Therefore, you perceive everything as having two sides because you do not allow yourselves to comprehend the entire picture. So that really speaks to me. Because like with the circle, here we have the circle, and then like if humanity is just seeing these two parts, then they're thinking, okay, this is linear, but it's just two, like a very small part of each side of the circle. But then, once we're able to expand our consciousness, raise into higher levels of ourselves, then we're able to see this, this greater reality.
Sounds like you're describing multidimensional living.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that struck me also about the circle is that perhaps one reason why I feel so deeply drawn to the Cholkeen is that this is a circular cycle, 260 days. Within the Cholkeen, there's no first sign, there's no beginning, no end. It's entirely circular. But then when the Cholkeen is used in conjunction with some of the other cycles, like I was mentioning last week, the Hob, the 365-day cycle, the Hob does, since it's based on the solar calendar, like there is a beginning point, but that's within the solar cycle of the Earth. And these two cycles, I don't think I thought of it exactly this way before, but it just came to me. I just had this image that the solar cycle represents our physical lives, and then the Cholkeen then represents our higher self, like our spirit lives. And so then, just as the Cholkeen and the Hob can work together, can connect together. Likewise, our physical lives can connect with our spirit lives, or the spiritual parts of ourselves, and they can have like a similar interaction or connection.
Love that. Love that. As you were describing, I was somehow thinking about what you were saying about the collaboration is also with interstellar intelligence, with interstellar beings.
Yeah,
And I think what I'm seeing is that if we each are aware of connecting to our interstellar self and then is able to work with higher or elevated evolutionary beings,
Mm-hmm.
higher dimensional beings, they exist in the dimensions, then all of those multidimensional humans who are on Earth meeting, just like,
Yep. Yep.
oh,
There you go.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, from a you know from this from the perspective of how we are more, you know, every single person having a human life on Earth, each and every one of them, there's much more to them, much more to who they are, you know, what they are, than just looking in the mirror and seeing a physical human. You know, every single person came into this life from the higher planes. You know, whatever you want to call it. They came here for their spiritual growth as well as to help other people in their growth. Um, some people came here to have very, very hard experiences, but you know, it may be that they needed those experiences themselves, or as well to give difficult experiences to other people for their growth. You know, it's a complex interconnection or interdependency, if you will. Um, but yeah, from that perspective, every human here, you know, is actually like a higher dimensional being. You know, most people don't remember, you know, because having collective amnesia, if you will, is part of being in the Earth school. You know, we just need to focus on what we're doing here and not necessarily remembering, you know, having lives in other star systems and so on.
Yeah. It feels like for millennia there has been a kind of wash and repeat, you know, generationally doing the same things, trying to achieve the same things, you know, a bit like what still exists right now with, you know, going to school, getting some kind of degree,
Mm-hmm.
getting a job, marriage, mortgage, da, 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 and then okay,
Right.
final. What did
Yeah.
I do with my life?
Yeah.
And then having the spark that, you know, the memory, the remembrance
Yeah.
that you are so much more and that you have gifts, innate gifts and innate abilities, and you are multidimensional. And then I wonder what the next few millennia will look like.
Hmm.
Well, I'm grateful to you for, you know, offering a difference, offering more perspective and a higher perspective so that the more people remember, the less people are gonna wash and repeat, I think.
Right. Right.
I hope.
Yeah. And the thing about full disclosure or open disclosure that we were talking about last week. This, you know, I'm hoping that I can continue to live long enough to see how this starts to work out, because this is going to be, you know, an absolute shock
Hmm.
for I would think a sizable portion of the Earth's population now. The,
Hmm.
the thing is, though, one of the things that I've heard is that there's other, you know, in other countries, the thing about UFOs is much more common knowledge, much more easily accepted, you know, by the people. But the U.S., there's definitely been this massive cover up. Um, the idea of uh, non-human intelligence, has been ridiculed, for so long. And like in academic circles, if a professor is starting to look into UFO research or higher dimensional beings, there goes his or her career. So there's it's the image came to me of like a person walking into like a very, very high wind, and they're just kind of struggling to make
Wow.
headway in that wind. Uh, yeah, I think there's that goes on to to a certain
Like a
degree.
slowing down.
Yeah, just pressing against like like walking into a 40, 50, 60 degree wind, like a hurricane or something, you
Yeah,
know.
I believe that. I
And
believe that. I believe we should is maybe not the word, but we would be far more advanced. There has been, wherever we want to call it, disruption of our own central nervous system, and yeah, maybe even infiltration, DNA infiltration to slow. But it's inevitable. I mean, whoever, maybe the word again is not they, but it is inevitable that humans will find a path and will open those doors that have been locked from the within to the outer, right? From and
mhm,
also from um, as above, so below.
right.
And I say this often, and a lot of people stopped working with me because I was seeing that the United States is the future. It is the nation that spearheads interstellar living, interstellar communication. But I guess because of, the old world that is fighting, the kind of what you were saying before, the babies, it's ready, the new world, the new life is ready, and it's just that cracking the density.
Mhm.
Then I think it will be very fast. And it will be the opposite to the wind. It will be just like the river.
Just turn it around and yep, there you go. Yeah, I think the
That
U.S. does have a very important role. I mean, in both positive and not so positive ways, of course. But um, it's my sense that disclosure is global. That the Star Nations are currently working globally. The Star Nations see us as a collective, not as they don't
borders, no
looking
border.
looking at the Earth from space. You don't see borders. You don't see the kind of social constructs that humanity has developed. They see us as teammates. They
Mhm.
see us as equals. Um, and any number of sessions that Michael and I have had with our star friends, there's this sense of mutual love, respect, collaboration. The fact that we're teammates, that word often comes. I remember in one message that came to me, my guide said, "You know who you are." And then in another message, they said, "You are one of us."
Mhm.
So that's really what it is for every person, But Um, I think there's a lot of interest in UFOs. I think there's a lot of interest in. Um, I think people having kind of like a deep inner sense that we cannot be by ourselves in the infinite cosmos. It just doesn't make logical sense. You know, we can look at pictures from the James Webb Telescope, and they're just, oh my God, just jaw dropping. Just so many star systems, so many galaxies. I mean, the count just within our galaxy alone is that there's trillions and trillions and trillions of galaxies. So with all of that out there, and even just within our own galaxy, like how many star systems there are, it just does not make common sense that there would be this vast creation and
Mm.
we're just by ourselves. It just makes no logical sense whatsoever. And I think people, even if they might not articulate it, there's probably little glimmers, little kind of whispered words within themselves that no, we're not alone. We are a part of something much bigger than just ourselves, much bigger than our country. So I think that a lot of people will really welcome that. And there's also people that are probably so deep into particular belief systems that there might be some struggling. Um, but I also get the message that the Earth is not the first rodeo for the star nations. We've all helped other planets. Um, with that transition into higher levels of consciousness and more advanced technologies, and then be able to join into the Star Nations family.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like, something feels so huge and unfathomable. And then that's just an epoch. And then that's, I don't know, let's say, for example, the dinosaurs and humans living, afraid that they're going to be eaten. And that was massive. And now that is so like we read it in books and we wish we could meet the dinosaurs, not remembering anymore. Excuse me, of, I'm sure it was terrifying to live in those times and where we are now. So I'm saying is the frequency, we don't even carry the frequency of that fear of being eaten alive by an animal, by, a huge dinosaur. And
Well,
now
maybe a
the
shark.
fear, huh?
A shark.
Sharks, okay. Well, we have to have some.
Have to have something to be afraid of.
Yeah, but I think where I'm trying to go with this is that the frequency of those things that sounded, that felt to us in that epoch so distressing.
Mm,
And then when that is closed and complete, we don't even carry the resonance of it. Like as I said, the whole Jurassic Park movies, it was very
mm,
enlightening in seeing that, well, we could bring them back, but would we like it?
mm.
And so in the very near future, I hope that we won't even have uh, a collective fear of something that we have today, because
Right,
we're going
right.
to complete that story and it will just be, yeah, who knows? Maybe people will wear a t-shirt and they won't know what that really means anymore because yeah, because the frequency isn't available anymore because we
Right.
evolved it.
Yeah, it's like it's like school, and things that we learn to do in the third grade. Once we get into the higher grades and certainly get into college or university, we're not we're not having to learn the things that we had already learned in third grade.
Yeah,
Um,
and what happened to those books? We just, put them in a pile and give it to someone else, hopefully. But absolutely.
yeah, what you were saying just now about the animals, and this is one of the things that was actually experienced by Rosie and talked about in her book Soul Journeys. One of her trips that Radiant Lady helped her with in terms of raising her energies to go into the higher dimensions. Um, she was able to see all kinds of things happening in nature up there, because oh yeah, I'm kind of digressing a little bit. I'm not sure if it was Robert in one of Robert Monroe's books or one of Rosie's, but what they're saying is that everything on Earth actually comes from elsewhere. So, like the dinosaurs, the whales, tigers, sharks, humans, birds, um, technologies, all of those things originate in the higher planes. And in that respect, it's kind of like those levels are the mind or the brain. And then with Earth, this is the uh, level of manifestation of those things within this density. So Rosie was seeing all of these animals up there, um, that when they're in the earth plane, like they're attacking and eating one another. In the higher planes, they're all living in absolute peace together.
Mm.
And uh, in those higher levels, they don't need to eat food. They get their um, sustenance, in other ways, like like within the atmosphere. They can be energized. There was an example of like the earth. Like some of the animals would just eat the earth, and even like they were. Rosie was shown how she could take a handful of earth and eat it, and it energized her. So the atmosphere of those higher levels, we don't have to do the same things to support our physical bodies. We don't have to eat food, and animals don't have to attack and kill one another to exist, up there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm excited, as you say, I think, I feel we have the front seat at such a magnificent era on this planet. And as you keep saying over and over, the interconnectedness of us and interstellar nations and yeah, beings.
Mhm.
Um, isn't I don't know if the word is we depend on each other, but there is a continuum, right? If we do well, they do well. We're all evolving together. We're all upgrading. We're all, yeah, getting to the other side of this mess. If we make it, they make it. So it's a collective, I guess, a collective effort, if we could see that. I mean, it's effortless, but the collaboration that you spoke of to create the complementary polarity that then creates. I keep seeing this movement, when you describe the linear and just seeing one point of the circle, but then
Mhm.
seeing yourself in the sphere and all of those potentialities. And then on the point of collaboration,
Hmm.
a team of highly evolved, I call them extraordinary humans here on planet Earth, and then in collaboration with star allies, I see like, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like, actually, I don't even know what a dynamo is, but it feels something like that. It generates more and more energy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what a dynamo is really, but
Mm.
it's just coming to me.
Yeah. 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 Like part of like an electric motor,
Huh.
something like that, I think. Um, boy, I haven't heard that word in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously probably just an
Yeah.
example of a much higher intelligent
Mm.
technology.
Yeah. But one of the things, like, the idea of the circle, and how this inspires me as I envision the Cholkeen. It's a circular cycle, but when I envision it, it's not it's the circle is not a solid line. I don't see it that way. Whether I see it as a collection of points,
Mm,
in this case 260 points that form this circle. And so each point is unique. That's very important to remember about the idea of complementary polarity. Each of the 260 points has a unique identity, has a unique expression, is unique energetically. And the way that it works is that the Cholkeen consists of 20 day signs and 13 numbers. And so the 13 numbers keep repeating sequentially for 20 times, 20 revolutions, if you will. And then each of the 20-day signs, um, five of them, they all have like their own. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can say this. Each one is a representation of one of the four directions and four elements. So, like five of them would have the same direction and same element, but there's something different about each of the five. And so this is something that I've worked with. Um, but again, it's like this interaction of the numbers representing energetic states or energy, like an energetic scale, from 1 to 13, and then the 20-day signs. And we could think of them as being perhaps uh, 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 arche- archetypes. I was kind of stumbling on that word, sorry. Um, but yeah, the idea of like each one of those out of the 260 being completely unique, and then collectively they work together in this, what we could see as a circle. That's something that just speaks to me deeply.
mm. Yeah, in astrology, the planets are not just doing one thing by themselves ever. There is always a configuration,
Hmm.
and literally there are millions, trillions at infinitum configurations, and it's never quite the same. There are cycles. There are cycles where, two planets meet and then they meet again. There are cycles like a 12-year cycle or a 9-year cycle. But the kind of the protagonists are creating a different harmonic. So the cycle repeating is never a repeat experience. There is always a new experience and a new evolution, a new experience, a new evolution. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I want to slow it down because there is so much in the sky if we care to see it. And I know the calendar is origin, right? You're speaking about tones or frequencies which are origin, and then you are living that origin. Uh,
Right.
yeah, color frequency. Beautiful.
Yeah, and by the energy practice that I do each morning, part of that is uh, uh, experiencing the Cholkeen each day with this particular number, this particular day sign, and then how it's working in collaboration with. Um, I've described before, I think, how the Cholkeen can be also seen in addition from being circular, that you can see it as a layout of an equal arm cross. And so this is where it gets into working with the four directions and elements. And the particular Quiche Maya elder that I've worked with and received many teachings from, the way that he works ceremonially or energetically with the Chokeen is, first of all, facing the east, then the west, then the north, and the south, and then back again. So the east would represent fire, the west would represent earth, the north would represent air, and the south would represent water. But the ancient Maya, from my understanding, didn't think in terms of like the cardinal or the compass directions. Like east would be sunrise, the west would be sunset, north would be above, and then south, of course, would be below. Um, and so then on this equal arm cross, for each arm of the cross, you can have 5 day signs arranged. So this is the way that the 20 day signs can interact with the four directions
Ah,
in addition to being a circle. So, as an example, today's day sign is 6 Kawak, and 6 would be part of the northern arm of the cross that's represented by uh, Kaban. That would be the first day sign of this 5 day sign sequence of the north. So this can represent the higher mind in various ways with the element air. Um, but but Kawak, um, the its own direction is the east. So this would be an interaction of north and then east, or then air, and then what the east can represent with fire. So there's this wonderful interaction of the elements, the directions, and for me, it goes back to the message that I received several years ago about working in pairs.
mm,
So you would, uh, uh, again, like with today, Coak being east, but being a part of the northern arm of the cross and that interaction. And I think of them as hearing intervals in music. You mentioned the circle of fifths, so you could have two notes playing together, and they could be an interval of the fifth, or a third, or a sixth, or a seventh, a ninth. So in this way, my background in music, I think, really prepared me well for working with the Chokим. I hope that made sense.
absolutely. It's fascinating. As you're speaking, I'm seeing how that applies to to the axis of, in astrology, we have the rising of the sun in the
Mhm.
east, the setting of the sun, the highest point of the sun, and the deep where the sun is below the horizon,
Yeah,
the lowest point before it gets to sunrise again.
mhm.
And so I'm thinking, oh, that must be very similar in the quadrants. Yeah, in astrology, we can look at the quadrants of the chart, which makes
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And even though ceremonially, um, the Mayan elders would not do like a circular method of like turning to the directions, uh, like what the Mayan elder Don Rigoberto Itzep does in his ceremonies is going like from east and then turning to the west and then the north and south. Um, Still, you can look at the way that sun rises in the east and then north, or what could be called above. Like still would represent the sun at its high point, at its meridian, and then you have sunset, and then below going like midnight. You still have those.
Mm,
So they still represent the solar path through the day, through the seasons, and so on. Like the east would represent spring. The west would represent fall, and so on. Um, but as long as I'm talking about that, let me mention one more thing, because this is a realization that came to me several years ago by working with the east and then west is a horizontal, and then north and south is a vertical. The vision came to me of two bar magnets,
mm,
and then like the magnet would have its positive and negative poles. And then I very easily saw this with the chol, and then the ceremonial practices that I could relate to the four elements. East would be positive, west would be negative, and then north would be positive, and south would be negative. And then I saw it within the context of yin and yang. And in traditional Chinese medicine, yang leads to yin, for grounding. So then, kind of putting all these pieces together between the Mayan and then the Chinese, East I saw as lesser yang, and then West as greater yin,
mm,
because the polarity of yin and yang isn't just complete opposites; it's on a continuum. So you could have, in this case, lesser yang, greater yin, and then to the north, you would have with air, then that would be greater yang, because it's expansive. And then it would go down to lesser yin with water. And then, of course, the greater yin of earth, is the solid, the um, well, okay.
condensing, bringing
Yeah,
everything together,
yeah.
materialization.
So, like with yang expanding and then yin contracting. And then, as I mentioned, like the greater aspect or the lesser aspect, where you could have the little bit of the continuum or the range of yang, and then a range of yin.
Hmm.
The idea then is where you have the point of balance,
Mm.
between working with them.
And do you have the midpoints between the air and earth, for example? And
Working ceremonially. Um, no, you would just turn from
Oh,
west to north. But then once I've gone through the four directions, I think of the center, as myself standing in the center. And the colors that the quiche, or at least Don Rigo, um, uses, like east is red, west is black, north is white, and south is yellow, and the center would be green. And somewhere I've learned that this is very similar to the working with the four directions, like with the Lakota.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all of it feels like a divine original matrix. And
Mm-hmm.
as you were saying at the very beginning of this video, the teams came to the Gobi Desert, then they went to Mesoamerica, and of course they left almost like a map.
Almost what?
A map.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Love that.
yeah. And these were different teams, that I was with that came here in different times. But then there's been so many teams coming to every place in Earth, and working with people in different ways, and thus you have these ancient spiritual traditions that are that have both differences as well as similarities. I think of uh, like hatha yoga, and then comparing that to traditional Chinese medicine.
Mm,
It's different, but then there's some inner workings that are also similar.
beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is also part of the complementary.
Exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Love that.
So I think we have wonderful things in store for us.
Yes, very exciting. And yeah, let's reconvene um, on the other side of, the 17th, 18th, the 20th. I come
Right.
back from Egypt early March. So
Okay. Yeah.
I am delighted to be having this deep insights and to receive your wisdom. So thank you so much. I am honored, and thank you for sharing your mastery so
Yeah.
generously.
Well, absolutely back at you. I was wondering, perhaps I could send you a link to the um, collection, that has the information about the Star Nations teams. Could it be possible to add that to the other
I
information?
can add the page of the I wrote it down, Star Nations teams.
Hmm.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
written it down, so I'll take a copy and then I paste the actual page
Okay.
read
Perfect.
where they can read the Star Nations
I,
teams
th- I think that would be very
entries.
helpful. Yeah, I think that would be very helpful for more people to know about the teams, what they've done, and then on that page, I go into more detail about the Cholkeen, because for people that might not know about it, what I've been saying in this video is like, huh? What? I have no idea what he's talking about. So yeah, I've got a little bit more information about the Cholkeen and links to some other websites that have very good introductory information about the Mayan cycles.
Wonderful. Well, I
Mhm.
look forward to more. Thank you so much, dear Roger.
Thank you again. It's always a joy.
Yes, I will see you very soon. Much,
Okay.
much love.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay.